Now, I know that applause was for our honored speaker, but let me introduce myself. I'm Gerald Walpin. A few years ago, when I was president of the Federal Bar Council, which is the bar association for the lawyers and judges in the Second Circuit of federal courts, I had the honor of awarding the Learned Hand Medal to then Chief Judge of the Southern District of New York, Michael B. Mukasey. That award is given annually to a person who has enhanced the rule of law. And you have to understand the real and practical meaning of that award being given to Michael Mukasey. I would hazard a guess that no one here would be surprised to hear that Federalist Society adherents are not necessarily a large percentage of lawyers in the Second Circuit, composed of New York, Connecticut, and Vermont. And because Michael never dissembles, it was then and remains true today. It was known that Michael, how shall I say it, has a conservative tendency and believes in the Constitution as it was written. Yet, Michael was chosen for the award by a large number of lawyers who were diverse in all factors, including politics. Michael had even then I should say that, moreover, from the standing ovation given him by over 1,000 persons present, both before and after his acceptance remarks, in which he minced no words in expressing his views, the Second Circuit bar as a whole demonstrated its respect for him. Now, this was before Michael's service as Attorney General of this country. It was based on his then already magnificent record as an assistant U.S. attorney, where he served as chief of the Official Corruption Unit, and then 18 years as a federal district judge, including 6 as chief judge. Michael had even then a well-deserved reputation of crackerjack's intelligence, combined with hard work and fairness, patience and courtesy, I must say properly tempted by an unwillingness to brook fools and unprepared lawyers, and most certainly as a judge who never strayed from honesty, highest integrity, and the courage to call it as he saw it. Then came his nomination by President Bush to be Attorney General. It appeared at the outset that, given Michael's recognized qualities, the confirmation should be a breeze. Indeed, in answer to questions, he underlined his independence and integrity by stating unequivocally that, and I quote, "If the President proposed a course of conduct that was in violation of the Constitution, I would either talk him out of it or leave," unquote. But what happened next showed his unwillingness to allow personal benefit to overcome his principles. Some senators asserted they would be conditioning their vote on the nominee's agreement that it would be illegal if the President ordered telephonic surveillance for foreign intelligence purposes outside of the procedures Congress enacted in the FISA statute. Michael Mukasey, demonstrating the same integrity and independence he promised to apply to an illegal position voiced by the President, refused to seek confirmation votes by bowing to the Senator's erroneous view of the law. He was steadfast in responding that, and I quote, "The statute can't change the Constitution, which vests in the President the authority to defend the country," unquote. The rest, of course, is history. Michael Mukasey was confirmed, he brought to the Department of Justice great leadership. As I personally know, he raised the morale of justice professionals to new heights and provided this country and the President with the best legal expertise and direction. Now, before I give the podium to this great public servant, I must acknowledge his wonderful partner, who for these many years has shared her husband unselfishly with the American people, Susan Mukasey, who is standing in front. Would you stand? And now I have the pleasure to give the podium, call him what you will, Judge or General Mukasey, a great public servant.
I want to thank my good friend Jerry Walpin, and it's obvious from that introduction that he is my good friend, for that introduction, which was generous to the point of lavishness. I also want to thank him for being a stalwart in his own right. As I'm sure many of you know, Jerry served as an Inspector General until he was not only unceremoniously, but on any reasonable view of the law, unlawfully removed from that position, something he has chosen not to suffer, but rather to fight, as he usually does, against injustice. At considerable expense to himself, but I would add with the support of his friends. I also want to thank Gene Meyer for inviting me to this podium. A couple of weeks ago, he told me, actually rather casually, that this time slot had opened up because of a panel on a topic that he didn't mention. I don't know what that topic was or whether there was such a panel. He said that it had to be canceled for a reason that he didn't explain, and asked whether I would be willing to come and say a few words. And so, since I've been to conferences of this sort, and I've seen what happens when people break out into panels, I figured we'd be in a small conference room, and I'd be delivering some appropriately modest remarks, and to a relatively small audience. The format and venue for these comments has changed somewhat over time. I came yesterday to another event in the Grand Ballroom and realized that this was not going to be exactly what I expected. And of course, events, including events this morning, have overtaken this presentation to a certain extent. And so I will, I suppose, apologize in advance if these remarks have a certain improvisational quality to them. But I think it would be a mistake for me to approach a podium here and not mention what happened this morning, notwithstanding the lack of a whole lot of time to prepare. In spite of that, I think it would be fitting for me to return to where I left off last year. Or at least to that part of the performance that was done in a vertical position. When I discussed national issue securities and concerns, and it actually gotten to the next to the last paragraph of my speech, where I expressed the hope that what was then the administration in formation would take a good look at what the outgoing administration had done in good faith to keep this country safe, and would conclude that those measures were both lawful and effective and would by and large keep in place the programs and policies that had succeeded in protecting the security of this country for 8 years.